What do you think of when you hear the name Michael Jackson? Freak, pedophile, wacko jacko. But did anybody ever stop to think of all the accomplishments that he made throughout his life? Firstly, the Jackson 5 was known as the first family of soul. Thriller became the best-selling album of all time, and 5 of his albums, including Thriller, were amongst the world's best-selling albums of all time. He was the first African-American to appear on MTV, and he not only was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame once, but twice. Although tabloids are interesting, haven't people learned that not everything we read is true? I guess not. But today we will venture into the childhood, the career, and the controversy of Michael Jackson. Michael Jackson was born on August 29, 1958 in Gary, Indiana. He was one of 8 brothers and sisters, 5 of which became known as the Jackson 5. Jackie, Tito, Jermaine, Marlon, and Michael. The Jackson 5 were first introduced or noticed at the Apollo Theater during an amateur night competition which they had won, and soon after they signed with the Apollo Theater, they signed with Motown Records. Some of their top hits were I Want You Back, ABC, and I'll Be There. When the Jackson 5 first came out, a complete Jacksononia, as they called it, broke out all across the nation. They had coloring books, they had a Saturday morning cartoon, and they had several variety shows. But behind the scenes, they had one of the worst stage dads of all time. Joe Jackson not only condoned his son bringing back random girls to sleep with, but he himself was having many affairs while on the road. This not only affected Michael emotionally, but mentally too, and it would come back later on in his life. But not even an abusive childhood could stop this star from rising. Jackson's solo career started in 1971 with the release of his first album, Off the Wall. One of his famous songs from Off the Wall is Billie Jean, which was written after a girl who kept harassing Jackson, saying that he was the father of her son, but really she was just after her 15 seconds of fame, which I guess she got more than she bargained for. Then there's Thriller, which is probably Jackson's most popular song that he ever wrote. It became one of the most expensive videos of its time, and Jackson also introduced music videos as short films, which nobody had ever seen before. Now here's some awards that Jackson won. Over his time, he won 15 Grammys, 26 American Music Awards, he had 17 #1 singles, and he sold over 750 million records, making him the best-selling artist of all time. He not only influenced people with his music, but also with his dance and fashion. He introduced moonwalking at Motown's 25th anniversary while singing my favorite song, Billie Jean. And with his fashion, I know you all remember the white glove and his patent leather black shoes with the white socks. But that just was who Michael was. And I feel like that's just what inspired people the most. That he remained true to himself, and he never let anybody come in between what he thought was right. But along with fame came all the downfalls too. In 1993, he was first charged with child molestation. But after a very long trial, there was no evidence found, and also the son that was supposedly molested and the mother both denied all allegations against Jackson. Also, I know people say, oh yeah, I remember when Jackson was black, oh now he's white. Well, what people didn't know is that he suffered from a skin disease called vitiligo, which changed the skin pigment over time. Most victims have blotches all over their skin or all over their body, and as you can see, Jackson didn't have that. Well, I mean, he was rich. He could have any procedure done that was imaginable, and that's exactly what he did. He just had his skin, treated over time with the progression of his disease. Then there was the Pepsi commercial. During the commercial, his hair had caught on fire, and he suffered from second-degree burns all throughout his scalp. This started his dependency on prescription drugs and pain medications, which ended up ending his life. Then there are his three children, Michael Joseph Jr., Harris Michael, which is his girl, and Prince Michael Jackson II, or aka Blanket. The controversy behind these three is nobody really knows if these children were naturally born or if they were from in vitro fertilization with his second wife, Debbie Rowe. But I guess nobody will really know that answer, and it really doesn't matter now. The world mourned Jackson's death on June 25th, 2009, and it was later ruled that it was actually a homicide due to his position. But even after vicious lies, Jackson still persevered to be the greatest entertainer that ever lived. So never judge a book by its cover, huh? I think the world needs to start gathering the facts before making assumptions, because who knows who will be the next victim of animosity. And a quote that Jackson left everyone was, "If you enter this world knowing that you are loved, and you leave this world knowing the same, then everything in between can be dealt with."